Kathy, how are you tonight? It's a it's a flaming 9 degrees in Cleveland. My furnace has been working overtime. And I got the driveway plowed today. No thanks to the asshole across the street. Yeah, well, not only zapping your energy, it's probably zapping your daughter's wood pile. I remember when my middle sister had her other house, and they had a wood burner. It was a beautiful. I can't remember the make. He paid good money for it, and he happened to hook up with a guy that was in a land clearing business and got all the free wood that he wanted. And I can't remember how much. Well, it was like half the garage was full of, split wood. And we were having one of them typical super cold winters. He blew through almost that whole garage in a month. He was like, holy shit. Typical first-time wood burner owner, Oh, that'll be more than enough. Yeah, well, he learned the hard way. Out in the middle of the goddamn winter, splitting wood. But I don't know what he was complaining about. He was getting the wood for free. Matter of fact, the guy that had the land clearing business was cutting it in certain size sections, so it made it easier to split. He had a splitter in his garage, one of them big hydraulic motorized units, but he had like half or 3/4 of the garage, and he thought, well, that's more than enough for the winter. Well, he learned fast. And then my little sister, the house that she had before the one she's got now, had a beautiful wood-burning fireplace in the living room. I'll tell you what, there's nothing more relaxing than sitting in front of a fireplace. Yeah, if you've got a wood burner, you have to own a splitter. And trying to do it by hand with a wedge, no. But that hydraulic unit that he had was really nice. Put the log in, pull the lever, split the log in half, then take the two halves, split. And then he paid the neighbor kid down the street to stack. So they split wood like a real team of pros. It's just that when he got, I think it was 3/4 of the garage. It was a 2.5 car garage. And it was like 3/4 of the width of the garage all the way to the back and about 6 foot high. And he had that, like, we're good. Where's the rest of the crowd tonight? Lynx Fur, where are you? I'll give you a couple more minutes and I'm going to get started. In about a week and a half, I've got something coming in the mail, and once it's here, you might be interested in it. I'll just leave it at that for now. And it would be something you would be interested in for your granddaughter. Now I got your interest peaked. Got to wait till it's here. Where is the Lynx Fur tonight? God, usually he's right in the door. I was going to say he can't be crying about sore muscles. Last night was trivia. The only thing that he might have is a headache. Come on, Lynx Fur. I'll give you 2 more minutes. Then I'm going to get started. Well, the antibiotics are doing their thing, and so is this lovely I went up to Mark's today and I got another gallon. Ollie looked at me and went, "More?" I said, "Oh yeah, I'll be back for more after this." I said, "I got to drink this shit for 14 days. Matter of fact, I talked to the assistant manager, see if I can get a deal on a couple of cases. Because it's going off sale. What's today? Wednesday? I lose track of days. Oh, today was the last day of the sale. Holy shit. Let's do a start here. Broadcasting live from beautiful 9-degree downtown Cleveland. It's station WDWL TV, home of not one, but 2 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Your host, the grumpy old man, and our show is brought to you by Grumpy Vulture Productions. No bow, thank you. Yeah, I called the snowplow guy, and I find out he's my neighbor down the street. I thought I recognized the truck, and he asked me, he says, pull a Passat out on the street. He backed all the way up, almost against the front of the shit box, dropped the plow, went right down the driveway. And then in Cleveland, you can't shove snow across the street. So then he had to turn around the truck and then plow it up on my tree lawn. And he did that twice. And then he's got one of them power angle plows. So he shoved the snow as far as he could on one side of the apron, then shoved it the other way. And almost down to pavement. He told me, had I not made them tracks, but beautiful job. It's nice to have a plow. And then I reach for my wallet and he starts to drive away. I said, wait a minute. Oh, you don't owe me nothing. I said, wait a minute. Hey, this is your business. He goes, you're my neighbor. He says, you need the help. So I pulled $40 out of my wallet because I was planning on paying like 50 or 60. You know, these guys get top buck in this kind of weather. And I handed him 40 and I said, here, at least go get gas. And he handed me 20 back and he says, oh, I'll just get myself something to eat. Then he tells me, when I swing past the house, if it needs a touch-up, he says, I'll just drop the plow and drag it backwards, and I won't charge you. What a hell of a neighbor. God damn, I would have paid him to push my snow into Rob's driveway. Of course, I told him about Rob. And even he agreed. When he comes over to cut the grass, tell him, see you, bye. Don't need you. You're a fair weather friend. But yeah, he only lives 2 streets over. Matter of fact, when I give him the address, he knew right where I lived. And I said, how do you know? He said, well, it's the house that looks like the Munster house. And I said, yeah. He goes, I walk my dog past your house every single day. He walks his dog 3.5 miles a day. He told me the route, and he says it's actually 3.45 or 3.44 miles from his house, the circle that he takes to come back. Every single day. 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So I gotta pay attention now because we have so many dog walkers. But yeah, he told me, he says, I just live. Matter of fact, I said yesterday, you were coming down the street and I tried to flag you down. And he says, oh, I was probably going to another place. Christ, he plows either 14 or 16 private businesses. He gets up at 3 in the morning. He said he finishes by 7. Then he goes to work. And then after work, he drives around and touches up all the lots before going home. But he told me, he says, I'll drive past it. The driveway needs a touch-up. I'll just do a reverse pull on the plow and keep you cleaned up. What a guy. I am glad that I asked the brothers for his phone number. Matter of fact, he told me that's how he gets most of his business. Somebody will say, hey, who plows your lot? Here's his number. I said, those guys are... I said, what are their names? He goes, I don't know. I can never remember. He goes, Biggie and Little E. That's what I call them, Biggie and Little E. Even he agreed with me. He goes, those two do not look like brothers. He said, it's hard to believe they had the same mother and same father. It's almost like what the hell was that movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, twins? That's basically one is tall and robust, and then the other one little meek mild, and two different personalities. The big guy is outgoing and likes to hear jokes and tell jokes, and his little brother is shy as shit. Well, I watched 7 different court videos today, and 7 different states. And it's amazing. There were, like I say, 7 different hearings. Each was regarding stolen vehicles and police chases. The teens were aged 14 to 17. All of them had previous 4 or more auto thefts, all with fleeing and eluding. So it isn't just one area. All 7 never served any time whatsoever. All released to their parents. This shows you how fucked up the system is. And 2 had vehicle restitution damages in the excess of $180,000. And neither one had paid a penny towards their restitution. And each judge asked the same question. Why are you here? Well, because I stole a car and I ran. Why did you run? They were all, we're afraid of the police. And all the judges, it was almost like they were on the same brainwave, said, if you would have just pulled over and stepped out and put your hands up, there'd have been no need for you to be afraid of the police. Matter of fact, one of them in one police chase was doing over 130 miles an hour, weaving in and out of traffic. And all of them had more than 4 stolen cars. This is a huge failure in the juvenile system. Because they get arrested, the police call mommy and daddy, they come pick them up, they go to court, they get probation, and they're like, no big deal. You know, I really think after your first stolen car, if you get caught again and you flee and elude, I think these kids should go to boot camp. I really do. I think they should sentence them all to boot camp. Because it has been proven to work on at least 80% of the kids. Especially if they get one of them drill sergeants like, what the hell was the movie, Full Metal Jacket? Or Forrest Gump. But to get probation don't mean shit. Because they immediately violate. Then I watched, oh, Kathy, you love this one. I watched a police interrogation video last night. But there's no consequences. Like I say, they get caught. They're juveniles. They get turned over to their parents. They go to court. They get probation and community service. And they don't do anything. They immediately violate, and the probation department is, understaffed and overworked, so they can't keep track of these assholes. But this interrogation video I watched last night was a 70-year-old guy. He delivered bread for 30 years. He had a bread route. When he retired, he had gotten his grandson a job with the company. When he retired, he asked the company if they would assign his route to his grandson, and he would work part-time to help him out. Now, I don't know what company this was, but they drove their bread truck home. At the end of the route, they took their truck home. So, he comes home, and his stepson is parked in the space where this guy has parked the truck for 30 goddamn years. The stepson puts his car there. Now, the stepson worked for a cable company and worked from home. The stepson was a fucking pig. He lived in the basement, rent-free, refused to throw his takeout food out in the garbage. This guy said once a month they had to go down and clean. This kid was 23 or 24. He was so goddamn lazy, he'd order a pizza, finish the pizza, throw the box in the corner. So, there's a little aggravating factor here. So, he comes in the house, and he goes downstairs and he said, I need you to move your car. And the kid ignored him. Now it's his stepson, okay? So he asked him again, very politely, because even his wife agreed. He said, please, will you please move your car? Oh, I can't find my keys. He said, well, will you look for your keys so you can move your car? Well, I'm working right now. He said, you can't take 5 minutes to look for your keys? Kid ignored him. So he goes upstairs and he says to his wife, can you please go down and ask your son to find his keys and move the car? Now, they'd been married for 20 years. His wife says he doesn't need to move the car. Well, this kind of inflamed Grandpa a bit. So he went down once more. And he says, would you please move your car? And the kid ignored him. So he comes upstairs, and his wife said, "What are you going to do?" He said, "Don't worry, I'm going to handle it." She's thinking maybe he's going to call a tow truck. She goes out, sits down in the living room, starts to read a magazine or something. He goes in the bedroom, gets his rifle, walks downstairs. He's got the rifle down at his side. The kid didn't see it. He says, "Are you going to please move your car?" And the kid said, "No." And Grandpa shot him between the eyes. Then he went upstairs and called the police and said, "I just killed my stepson. Come get me." And he admitted this during the interrogation, and he said, "Hey, I know where I'm going. I'm 70 years old. I'm going to miss my grandkids." But he said, "I got pushed too far." He said, when my wife literally turned on me and said her son didn't have to move the car, he said, I just handled it. As calm as can be. Yeah, he said, I walked downstairs and shot him in the head. He said, the gun's in the garage. I'm sitting here. And when they brought the wife in, even the wife said he kept saying please and never raised his voice. But when she took her son's side and said he don't have to move the car, he said, that pushed my last button. He said, I put one bullet in the gun. And you know what? Of course, he got life in prison, but I really think he should have got like lifetime probation and house arrest with a work permit. And I mean, he just said, I had my last button pushed, and I did what I had to do. And a nice old guy on top of it. Just, I really felt sorry for the old man. I really did. But when he went to the bedroom, his wife yelled from the living room, what are you going to do? He goes, I'm going to handle it, don't worry. She went back to reading her magazine, and then she heard, holy shit. Walked downstairs, and her son had a third eye in his forehead. And Kathy, you know what I go through here. And you know I carry. But I got better ways of spending my days than in an orange jumpsuit. I'll tell you what, I almost fell out of bed because the guy was telling the backstory. And usually, when it comes to the point of the act itself, a lot of people dance around it. he just told the detective, well, him and my wife pushed my last button and I did what I had to do. He says, I went in the bedroom, I put one shell in the rifle and went downstairs, asked him politely one more time. He ignored me and he said, I shot him in the head. This stuff don't go down any easier the more I drink it. But when I get this item, they said about a week and a half. I think it would be something cute and appreciated by your granddaughter. And once it's here, we can go into detail. I know you're on the edge of your seat saying, God damn it, what is it? Well, let's see. When did I start? I started Friday night when I got home from the hospital. So we can't really count it because that's not a whole day. So you got Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So 5 days in, 9 more to go. Because I have to drink it up until my next appointment, which works out to be 14 days. So 5 in, 9 to go. That'll be probably another 4 or 5 gallons. Oh, God, I should own stock in Ocean Spray. And like I said, it don't go down any easier. I have my cup of coffee. Well, I have 2 cups of coffee in the morning, and then I switch to this wonderful drink and suck on it all day. And I fill my chilled mug at night. And when I get dry mouth at night, well, he told me water, but as a matter of fact, I went there today and I was going to pick up some bottled water. I don't know why I didn't. Maybe I'll get some tomorrow. I'll have to go through the sale ad to see. Every week he's got different bottled water on sale, so I should pick some up because this cranberry juice 24/7 is really getting to me. Yeah, I'll look at the sale ad came today in the mail. So I'll have to go through it in the morning while I'm having my coffee and see which brand, and then I'll get a case. Because tap water in Cleveland, I tried that for a day and a half. So I'll whatever's, like you say, every week he has a different brand of water on sale. Like he has his own brand, and Dasani, and there's so many. God, you go, there's, 30 feet aisle of water. Because Mark's, he has his own brand. That's usually the cheapest. I'll look at the ad in the morning, and whatever's on sale, I'll go buy some. What I should do, and I mentioned it before, Temu has that electric pump that goes on top of a big distillata bottle. I should buy one of them 5-gallon bottles and just keep it on the edge of the counter, use it to drink, use it for coffee. That way I wouldn't have to descale the goddamn Keurig machine. Because that's what screwed my last one up. I didn't descale it, and then the heating element got all fucked up. That way I get one of them 5-gallon jugs and get that pump. I was going to say, if I'm gonna go into it that heavy, I should look at buying one of the machines. I got enough crank in my electric bill. Because I know, like, Marianne went up to Costco and got one, and it's got a hot water spigot and it's got a chilled water spigot. I can't remember what she paid for it. It wasn't that expensive. Because she buys a 5-gallon jug all the time. I'll have to ask her what brand she's got. Because I'm sure Walmart probably has the same or similar. I don't have a Costco membership. They're not that expensive. Maybe I'll just go out and buy one. Or just buy the 5-gallon bottle and the cheap water pump from Temu. So they still got power outages down in your area? What about the schools? Are the schools open or are the schools still closed? I know some school districts have a temperature limit. If the temperature gets like below 30, schools are closed. I know Cleveland schools are open because the school buses go up and down the street all the time. Oh, they're still closed down there. Okay. You talk about these kids getting catered. Goddamn school bus drops them off right in front of their house. Oh, God, their Tootsies might get in the snow. What do you think of that? Did you watch that clip with that goddamn school bus? Holy shit. I thought for sure when it hit the pole and went sideways it was going over. And then it bounced back on its wheels. I was like, wow. That driver, that driver had to go change her underwear after that trip. Although you've got an ice storm, why on God's green earth would you attempt to go down a hill? That's what I was thinking constantly. Why on God's green earth did you make that left turn onto that hill? The hill you could see was glass. What do them goddamn buses weigh? 30,000 pounds? You ain't stopping one of them. I don't care how good your air brakes are. That thing was like a giant toboggan going down that hill. But it was amazing how I thought for sure it was tipping over. And then it come back down on the wheels and just kind of rolled backwards. I was like, that poor driver is probably still changing her underwear. You know, that's like all these idiots that think these 4x4s are invincible. You could have an 8x8. When it hits ice, it's going bye-bye. $17 tons. My math is bad. The hell does that calculate into pounds? See, 2,000 pounds in a ton. That would be 14, carry 1, 30, 34, 35,000 pounds. I was pretty close when I said 30. Yeah. When you hit ice, that thing's a giant projectile. That's why I was shocked. You could see that hill was glass. Make that left turn and yahoo! Hang on for dear life. Yeah, you figure even in snow, driving something 34,000 pounds, your stopping distance is going to be like 5 times normal. And you shouldn't be going over like maybe 20 miles an hour. You know, in snowy, crappy weather, 20, 25 max. Because you never know when some idiot is going to cut you off and you need the stopping distance. And the heavier they are, the harder they are to stop. See, I'm not familiar with school buses. Now, is that a full-size bus with 18 rows of seats? They consider that a full size? I never rode a school bus. I would tend to think all the buses Cleveland have are probably that size. I'll have to do a quick count one day. Because today when I got to the corner, I was waiting for the school bus to drop the little pansies. And I looked and I went, that bus driver's white. She must be the token. Because every other school bus driver then you were driving what goes up and down my street a couple of times a day. And I'll tell you what. I am going to start getting bus numbers because they do not come to a complete stop at the stop signs out front. They do a roll through. Gee, that's interesting. Why would the manuals have fewer rows? Although I'll tell you what, I would prefer if the school system had a mix and I was a bus driver, I would prefer driving a manual because you have way better control in ice and snow with a manual because you can slowly downshift it. Same thing. If my front wheels start to spin, I start out in second. Although I got into the habit from when I was a teen. I use my clutch and engine like a jake brake. When I go to slow down, I slow down through the gears. I rarely use the brakes. But I've been doing that since I was 16. It's just force of habit, but I use my clutch and engine like a truck with a jake brake on it. Gear up, gear down, gear up, gear down. I would tend to think manual transmissions in buses are like dinosaurs today. Nobody knows how to drive them. Although I remember when Cleveland started their busing, you'd hear them drivers grinding them gears. Like, didn't anybody teach you how to drive with a tachometer? You shift with RPM. If the engine is governed at 2,000 RPM, when it hits 2,000, you let off the accelerator and you shift. You don't even have to use a clutch. The only time you use a clutch is coming out of first. God, I could go through the gears with blindfolded. You just listen for the RPM, and then you gently float it into the next gear. You don't. Well, Kathy, that's the way I feel it should be. Everyone should, if they're going to get their CDL, then they should know how to drive both a manual and an automatic. When I had my Eldorado, I didn't even stop and think. I would get out of the Eldorado and get into my Toyota pickup, and it was just second nature. Okay, automatically my brain went manual, get in the Eldorado, automatic. As much as I hate automatics, I love that. Oh, I had an 85 Eldorado in pearlescent white with a Continental wheel and Firestone wide white walls with a red leather interior. Talk about a pimp mobile. I loved that car. And it was a diesel on top of it. I'll tell you, that car was nice in the sun. It would flip flop. You'd see a little green, maybe a little red, Pearlescent white, big fucking Continental wheel on the back end. I ordered them special. They were Firestone wide whites. They were 2 inches. Well, Kathy, that's because you took your job serious, and you realized that you had, a shitload of young lives in that bus behind you, and they were all your responsibility. Like my buddy's wife. That woman could drive a bus blindfolded. But couldn't drive that minivan. Oh my God, we used to laugh at her. If she pulled in the drive and she didn't turn around in the turnaround, when she went to back out of the driveway, she was all over the goddamn place. But get down in the bus yard at the end of her shift, pull in, bang, like eyes closed. Holy shit, that takes nerves of steel, driving mountain roads in a school bus. But like I say, you were 100% into your job. That's how serious you took it. And basically, like I say, you realize that how many young lives do you have in that bus? And they're all your responsibility. Nobody else's at that point in time. Every kid on that bus, their life is in your hands. I'll tell you what. I wouldn't want to be a bus driver in Cleveland. Because I hear how them kids act on them goddamn buses. I don't know how the driver can drive. Yeah, because, you got every single parent and grandparent, trusting you to take their little darling to and from without as much as a boo-boo. But I watched the drivers here in Cleveland. Jesus Christ. Matter of fact, I was going to report this one driver, and I don't know why I didn't. Because up the street, up by PPG, the PPG factory, there's a railroad crossing. And I always thought it was 100% fucking mandatory you come to a dead stop at a railroad crossing and you make sure that you look both directions. I've seen school bus drivers here just go right over that, even though a train might come across them tracks once a month to switch out cars. They're not, it's not Amtrak coming down. But I've watched the Cleveland school bus drivers just right over that crossing. Oh, I've heard some stories about. I had a friend that was a substitute driver for about one season. He couldn't take it. And he actually caught two teenagers having sex in the back of the bus. He looked in his mirror and he couldn't. Why is that girl sitting on that guy's lap, looking the other direction? And they weren't paying attention, and he stopped the bus and ran in the back, and that's why. Yeah, I'm sure that the drivers had used the excuse, the crossing is rarely used. It's still a railroad crossing. I thought it was mandatory for a school bus to come to a dead freaking stop. But not in Cleveland. They get away with fucking murder here. Although talking about goddamn railroad crossings, was I pissed off going to ER Friday. They across 130th between Brook Park and Snow is a set of railroad tracks. And there's a couple of factories down the line there. And they were switching out cars. Now, the train was about 50 cars long, and it's doing like a 1/16 of a mile an hour. Got traffic all backed up. One car, the last car, the train stops. And this car is across all lanes of traffic. And it's sitting there, and it's sitting there, and it's sitting. I'm like, for Christ's sake. People are turning around, going the other way. 12 minutes later, the train finally moved. I was like, holy shit. Oh, shit. Mobile ear piercing. Oh, my God. Jesus Christ. And matches, what are they doing with matches on a bus? Oh, yeah, like I say, my buddy told me some war stories about bus driving, but when he caught them two kids having sex in the back of the bus, and everybody around him acted like it was normal. You know, like, oh, look, Timmy and Susie are getting it on. Oh, I'll just read my magazine. The kids, he said, not one of them was shocked. They were like, oh, Timmy's getting lucky today. Wish it was me. And they were so into it that they didn't realize the driver stopped the bus. And he ran back there, and they were like, she kind of gently slid off his lap, and he dropped his book bag across his crotch. And then he turned them in. I think they got 3-day in-school suspension. Well, that taught him a lesson, didn't it? Yeah, he did it for like 6 months, and he couldn't take it anymore. He said, I'm sorry, I'm done. But he was a sub, so, you know, he might work 3 days one week, 1 day the next week, because he was retired. And all the Cleveland buses have, what do they call it, monitors? Somebody that's supposed to keep the kids quiet and orderly. Of course, you know, you're picking a bunch of kids out of the ghetto. What the hell do they care? Not like in my day. That's the way you gotta be, Kathy. Don't let them intimidate you. Because when they think they got you, oh, they'll be relentless. Oh, really? Cleveland buses have monitors, which is another waste of tax money. We're paying a driver to drive the bus, and then we're paying somebody to babysit the rest of the kids on the bus. You know, when you're high school age, you would think that by now they learn things, but it's obvious. They're all a bunch of hoodlums. Oh, really? No, up here, every bus has a monitor. Because all the special needs buses here are the little short buses. Because one stops down the street because the one kid's got oh God, what is? I think he's got MD. Because I know he's got leg braces. But all the special needs buses are the short ones. Because he's in a wheelchair, and then The ramp thing comes out the back and because they got a big ramp in the front of their house. No, I bet you got the ribbon, huh? Kathy's driving the short bus. I always wanted one. I thought it would make a great motorhome. There were a couple of times they were up for sale. I tried to buy one. I thought it would have made a great motorhome. Because they're not that hard to convert. God, you rip all the seats out, you got plenty of working space. And if you plan things out right, you could turn it into a pretty decent motorhome. You know, my friend that lives out in Scottsdale, she has friends that have a, God, what year is that? It's a 40s vintage flexible. It was a transit bus. And they bought it and they gutted it. And man, did they turn that into a beautiful motorhome inside. But it's an oldie. Now, I think it's a 60s vintage. An old flexible transit bus. And they gutted it. And it took them several years to do it the way they wanted. And it's absolutely gorgeous. But you can tell, it's got the little round headlights in the front, But yeah, it's a 60s vintage. Flexible. It was a transit bus in oh God, where did they buy that from? Either Louisiana school system or North Carolina school system, or not school system, bus system. They bought it at an auction. And she sent me pictures. And they go cross country. But I would love to have gotten a shorty. Matter of fact, I tried to buy one about 5 years ago. It had a Ford Econoline front end on it, and it was a shorty. The daycare had it for sale, and some guy bought it out from under me. But it would have been perfect for me to convert, for me and good old Bootsy. Him and I would have done some traveling. Pain in the ass, fat cat, Jesus. And I'll tell you what, he's laying crosswise. I'll move him. And next thing you know, the feet are in my ribs again. Like, why are you laying crosswise? He'll jump in bed, nose into my armpit, give me a massage, and then turn sideways and go to sleep. And when he stretches, he's got to stick his back feet in my rib cage. I wouldn't trade him for anything on earth. The most unique cat I have ever owned. He is one of a kind. He sensed I'm feeling better because he hasn't been living next to me. But he's probably right outside the door. Because he knows it's feeding time at the end of the show. Five. I checked. As a matter of fact, it's in my phone. It's in my phone here. Go to pictures. Oh, no. 10. 2016. 2016. He's 10. Got him when, yeah, 2016. There he is, a little button nose, cute little baby. Whoop, that bald headed old bastard. How the hell did that get in there? Yeah, it says right there, 10 years, right at the bottom. You can't read it. God damn. Cut it out. Now I screwed up the phone. Yeah, 10 years old. God. 2016. That's when I got him. He was about 7, 8 months old when I got him. Rottenest bastard. Oh, God. Like I say, I tried to give him back to the goddamn rescue center twice. He was so rotten. Him and his goddamn water, splashing water everywhere. Didn't want to be touched. Didn't want to be held. Oh, I was that way when my 21-year-old Tabby. And I'll tell you, he got to be the point. He had just kind of given up, you know. And he used to sleep in the chair in the corner of the living room. And when I saw it, you know, things were really getting bad, I just walked over to him. His name was Beast, because he was. Oh, he was a beast. And I looked at him and I said, you know, Beast, are you ready to go? And he kind of gave me that look like, yeah. And I put him in the carrier. And I called the vet and I said, I got to bring him up. And that cat hated that carrier. And never made a sound. And I couldn't watch him giving the needle. All the vet said was, you know, it's done. Then I picked him up and took him with me, and had him cremated, and then in moving, I lost his ashes. I've got Sock's ashes over here. I don't know what the hell. Like I say, when I moved from up there to here, so much shit disappeared. I don't know what somebody would want with my cat's ashes. But Beast, he was 21. The vet was amazed. And the female, I had a calico female, she was 16. And then Soxy made it, Soxy was 10. And him and Boots didn't get along. So Soxy would go up and sleep with my son. And he was laying on my son's chest one night, and my son said all of a sudden he just dug his nails in, all 4 paws, and then just had a heart attack or something. And Soxy, he's right here in the corner of my desk. But I don't even want to think of, I'm not ready to think about old Bootsy. No. That'll ruin me. That will destroy me. I try not to think about it. You know, people that don't own animals don't understand it. They become family. And sometimes more loyal than family. I walked through the house and talked to him. Like today when I went to the store. I said, if you're good, I'll get you some treats. And he just kind of looked at me like, what? I'll come back from the store and say, God damn, I'll tell him about my shopping trip. And he just sits there and looks like, do I give a shit? Like back in the days of the Salem witch trials, if an old lady talked to her cat, whoop, she's a witch, burn her. I talk to him all the time. He don't answer much, but because he's family, he's plain and simple. He's family. You talk to family. I get more out of him than I get out of my kid. But I wonder where Ron is. Boy, that's interesting. Although I didn't get my morning email either. You know which one I mean, Kathy. I just thought of that. Because usually he'll tell me how trivia went. I got no email from him whatsoever today. God, I hope he's all right. The only way I got to get a hold of him is email. Yeah, tomorrow my SIM card arrives. I still haven't heard from Good old Spectrum. So if the rate don't come through like they told me, I'm just gonna tell them, hey, tell me where I send the SIM card back. We're done. I'll go find somebody else. As much as I hate the thought of that. It's not so much switching providers, it's all them fucking passwords. You gotta change everything and learn a new password or a new access code. And they're all so stupid. Like when I had AT&T, you had a couple of letters, a numeral, and then a symbol. I'm like, oh, Jesus. You know, QX3, exclamation point, capital L, small a, quotation mark. That was the only good thing about Spectrum. I said, can I pick my own? I said, you know, I meant when I upgraded, and the new router came with a new password, and I said, can't I just have the old password? I've got it burned in my memory, as stupid as it is. The guy went, yeah, sure. I'll change it right now. Because it never fails. You know, you're punching it into the fucking TV, and you make a mistake, and then you go to erase, and like right now, everything is saved. So, like, if my internet goes out and it comes back on, I don't have to go through all that shit. Gee, I watched oh, what the hell was it? Oh, I can't even remember where it was. This 5-year-old kid, like, vanished. The parent, you know, the mother, oh, he opened the sliding door and just wandered off. And it took him like 5 years to prove that the parents offed him. Some sharp detective went back 5 years in phone records, and the phone pinged somewhere up in the mountains. And they were like, that's strange. How did we miss this 5 years ago? And they went up in this area where the phone pinged with several cadaver dogs. And they ended up finding what was left. But both parents, oh, God, he opened the sliding door and just walked out while we were asleep. We don't know where he went. I will never understand these parents that end up offing their kids. There was one here in Lake County I watched today. Kid was 32 days old. He had 29 fractures. How can you take a 32-day-old infant and do that? Yeah, he had 29 fractures. And the only person with him was his father. The mother was at work. She come home to find him unresponsive. Well, by the time EMS got there, he was really unresponsive. And right up to the sentencing, the father denied it. I found him that way. Really? How could you find him that way? He's only 32 days old. It's not like he fell down a flight of stairs. And then the old excuse, oh, I must have blacked out. The typical excuse you hear in every interrogation video. I don't remember stabbing him 217 times. I must have blacked out. God, there was one on at 3 o'clock this morning. I can't remember. It was up in the East Coast. This, they were Croatian, the mother and the son. And, you know, the old online dating thing, and they got married, and God, they lived in a fucking mansion. The kid had every frickin' thing that he wanted. He was 16 or 17 years old. And the FBI found out that he was on all these radical websites, overturn the American government and this and that, and end up putting both of his parents in that dirt sleep. And they found him in Colorado. He had made it that far. He drained the bank account. When they caught him, he had $12,000 in cash on him. And all kinds of info for making IEDs and this and that. The one interrogator said to him, goes, You came from a war-torn country. You had a stepfather that gave you every fucking thing you wanted. And this is the way you turn out? You want to overthrow the government? Like a 17-year-old could overthrow the government. But he was on one of these dark websites communicating in Russian because he was fluent in Russian. Oh, I will never get used to that shit. Oh, man, pucker power. Well, what do you say we call it a night, Kathy? I got some hot smoked sausage for dinner. And I think the only thing I can do is email Ron and see what the hell's going on. Like I say, I didn't hear from him today at all. Usually I get the daily what today is email, and he'll either tell me about bowling or trivia. You know what? If you feel like it, you shoot him an email. I'll shoot him an email. Let's see if we get a response. I'm kind of worried now. I could see him coming in late, but Christ, it's 8:30. He should have been here. And like I say, I got no morning emails from him today. Of course, there's no way, God, we don't know where he lives. We don't know his phone number. You neither, huh? I don't know if I saved Linda's email. I think she got his phone number. Yeah, I'm kind of worried now. All right, we're going to hang it up. Thanks for hanging in there. We had an interesting school bus conversation. And with that, we will meet again right here tomorrow night. The home of 2 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And Grumpy has his own private dressing room now. And we will meet again tomorrow night. Kathy, take care. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. I'll let you know if I hear from Ron. Take care. And 2 see yas. See ya number 1. And